Hello, my name is Kevin. I'm entering the ENCMP 100 programming contest under the categories of solo and limited. For my contest entry, I have a chess emulator written in MATLAB using MATLAB's matrix functionality to create and modify matrices that emulate a chessboard. Some of the more difficult and creative things that I've had to do for this project were transforming user input into matrix coordinates and interpreting whether movements are allowed based on the position of other pieces in the matrix. So finding whether, in particular, a piece is in the way when you're trying to move from one spot to another, and then saying whether that movement is allowed. So for the basic kind of functionality of my code, if you look over here, you'll notice that my workspace is empty and I have a command window sitting up here. So running the program, it starts with a menu. There's instructions, saving and loading with dynamic save names. So you can name your files whatever you'd like, and it's just saved on your computer. And starting a game, this is what the board looks like. So it's in the command window again, it's just a matrix that's being displayed. It shows whose turn it is. W and B are for white and black side of the board. White player has capitalized pieces, black has lowercase, K is king and is knight, etc. I have almost all of the rules of chess built into my program. Some of the only things that I haven't implemented are check states. That has to be done by a human. I have nothing that can recognize check states. I don't have en passant implemented, and there are no restrictions on like 50 turns, no capture or anything. Again, that's something that players have to recognize. However, I do actually have castling implemented, as well as recognition of whether a king has been captured or not, and that will end the game. So some of the a lot of the more interesting things, I actually have files that will be included with the project. You can just load the file, and it has a board state in a specific location so that it's easier to test it out. And I'll put that in the README. So move a piece. The way it works is if you want to move this piece right here at D2, you type move piece D2, enter to square, for example, D4. And it moves, and it pauses, and then it turns the board around for the black player. Some of the things that I've learned doing this, as my first real experience programming, I found that it was really valuable in teaching me how to use Boolean statements a lot better, because the way that my pieces are described, basically the piece movement, it just checks what piece it is with a switch statement, and then it says whether different types of movement are allowed based on the movement of the piece, like the X movement or the Y movement. And I also really just got familiar with matrices because, again, I've never had experience with this before, and MATLAB is new to me. A basic rundown of how my code works is, so first it creates an empty board state, sort of, and board start that are used if a player doesn't want to continue a game. So this board start here is what is displayed to the player, and this state here is what the game actually is and what the computer executes on. And every time something's displayed to the user, it just writes that on top of this pretty thing right here with the coordinates and things and such. So first, the menu just sets up all the options. It loops through until it exits through someone either deciding to play the game or quit. Creates the board and starts the turn loop. So for the turn loop, some of the important things are whose turn it is. There's a variable that it just reads that's white, true or false, whose turn it is, and then it goes through, takes user input, determines whether there's a space in between, gets some generic movement restrictions like black can't move white, white can't move black, you can't take your own pieces, restrictions for each individual piece. There's a pawn promotion feature, so if you get to the end you can promote your piece. There's castling implemented right here. This is the overwriting the board, so what's actually displayed to the user, and then turns the board around if the move is actually executed and displays the black version, and goes to the next turn unless someone's won. Thanks.